My name is Emily Carter, and I'm 31 years old. 6 weeks ago, I still believed I was about to marry the love of my life. Looking back now, I realized the first crack didn't sound like a scream. It sounded like a single sentence. My past is off limits. You're not allowed to ask questions. At the time, I thought it was just an awkward moment. Now I know it was the beginning of the end. Daniel Brooks and I had been together for 3 years. He was 29, thoughtful, ambitious, the kind of man who always remembered my coffee order and never forgot my birthday. 8 months earlier, he'd slipped a diamond ring onto my finger beneath a canopy of autumn leaves, and I had cried before I even managed to say yes. Our wedding was scheduled for the following spring. We already had a venue. My dress had been ordered. Our parents were debating seating charts. Everything looked exactly like the future I'd dreamed about. More importantly, I believed Daniel was my best friend. We talked about everything: childhood embarrassments, career goals, family wounds, the mistakes we'd made before finding each other. Nothing felt forbidden. At least, that's what I believed. One Saturday afternoon, his mother invited us over to help organize old family photographs for the wedding slideshow. The dining room table disappeared beneath stacks of photo albums. Daniel laughed while pointing out terrible high school hairstyles. His mother kept telling stories that made him groan in embarrassment. I loved moments like that. They made marriage feel real. Then I turned another page. A photograph stopped me. Daniel stood beside a beautiful woman around his age. Her arm was looped naturally through his. His smile looked different, comfortable, intimate, not romantic necessarily, but close enough to make anyone curious. I smiled. Who's she? His expression changed so quickly it frightened me. The warmth vanished from his face. He reached over and snapped the album shut. Hard. The loud crack echoed through the dining room. Nobody. His mother's smile disappeared. I blinked. Okay. An old friend. He stood. I don't want to talk about my past relationships. His voice had become strangely flat, almost rehearsed. I looked at him, waiting for the joke. It never came. He folded his arms. Actually, I've been meaning to tell you something. I felt an unfamiliar knot tighten inside my stomach. My past is off limits. I frowned. What? You're not allowed to ask questions about it. Silence filled the room. His mother quietly excused herself, pretending she needed more coffee, leaving us alone. I searched his face for some explanation. But we've talked about exes before. You told me about your college girlfriend, the woman you dated after graduation. Even that musician you almost moved in with. He nodded once. That was before. Before what? I'm setting a boundary now. You need to respect it. I stared at the closed album. The picture was hidden beneath the cover, like it had never existed. I spoke carefully. I'm not trying to interrogate you. I'm just confused. Did something happen? If you're not ready to talk about it, I can wait. I don't mind. He shook his head. No, it's not about timing. It's about privacy. My past doesn't concern our future. You either accept that, or we have a problem. There it was. An ultimatum. No explanation, no discussion, just acceptance. Or conflict. Every instinct told me something was wrong. Not because everyone has to reveal every embarrassing chapter of their lives. People deserve privacy. But we'd built our relationship on complete openness. Or so I thought. How do you suddenly lock one entire section of your life away after 3 years? What changes overnight? I wanted answers. Instead, I nodded. Understood. Relief crossed his face. For just a second, as if he'd won something, he leaned over and kissed my forehead. Thank you. I smiled back. Inside, something had quietly shifted. That night, lying awake beside him, I kept replaying his words. My past is off limits. The sentence rolled around inside my mind until another thought appeared. If his past deserved privacy, didn't my present deserve the same? Boundaries worked both ways. The next morning, I started applying mine. Nothing dramatic, nothing theatrical. Just equal. Daniel walked into the kitchen while I answered a call from work. After I hung up, he poured himself coffee. What was that about? Oh, Just work stuff. He looked up. Normally I would have told him everything. The new client. The difficult deadline. The funny mistake my coworker had made. Instead, that was all he got. He shrugged. No big deal. Later that afternoon, my older sister Olivia called. We talked nearly 40 minutes. She'd been thinking about changing careers. When I hung up, Daniel smiled. What did Olivia want? Sister stuff. His eyebrows lifted slightly. Everything okay? Yep. That was all. Sunday arrived. He asked what I was doing the following weekend. Oh, just some plans. With who? People. He laughed. You're being mysterious. I smiled. I guess. The first few days passed without much reaction. Then, the questions started multiplying. What are you smiling about? Just something. Who texted you? A friend. What friend? One of them. What did your boss say? Nothing important. Every answer remained polite. Short. Emotionless. Exactly like his. About a week later, he finally put his fork down during dinner. Why are you being so vague lately? I looked up calmly. I'm not being vague. I'm just keeping certain things private. He frowned. What does that mean? It means some parts of my life are off limits. His eyes narrowed. That's different. I tilted my head. How? He hesitated. You know what I mean. I actually don't. You have things you keep to yourself. So do I. His jaw tightened. But that's about your day. And yours is about your past. I nodded. So, he opened his mouth, closed it, then looked away. No answer. Because there wasn't one. Every conversation after that felt different. Less like two people planning a wedding. More like two lawyers negotiating a contract neither wanted to sign. Some nights, he'd ask 3 or 4 questions before giving up. Other nights, he simply watched me, studying me, trying to understand why the warmth between us suddenly felt colder. He didn't realize he had built the wall himself. I had simply stopped climbing over it. By the end of the second week, our apartment had become painfully quiet. Not because we were fighting, because neither of us truly knew what the other was thinking anymore. He had wanted privacy. Now he was living inside it. And judging by the frustration growing behind his eyes, he was beginning to discover exactly how lonely it could be. The standoff continued for another week. Every question Daniel asked received the same careful, hollow answer. What did Olivia say when she called? Just sister stuff. What was that email about? Work things. Where are you going Saturday? Out. With who? Friends. What friends? The ones I made plans with. His frustration grew by the day. At first he rolled his eyes and muttered under his breath. Then he started following me from room to room, demanding explanations for things he had never considered important before. One evening after we finished dinner, he set his glass down and stared at me across the table. I feel like we're disconnected. His voice was quieter than usual, almost wounded, like you're pulling away from me. I folded my napkin and placed it beside my plate. I'm not pulling away. Then what are you doing? Respecting boundaries? He exhaled sharply. Emily, stop saying that. Why? Because you know, this isn't the same. You keep saying that, but you still haven't explained why. His eyes hardened. You're being cold. I'm being private. There's a difference. That's not who you are. No, I said softly. It isn't. For a moment, something passed across his face. Fear, perhaps. Because he understood what I meant. This version of me existed only because of the version of him that had appeared beside that photo album. The next morning, his sadness became anger. He stood in the kitchen while I packed my lunch, his arms folded tightly over his chest. You're being passive-aggressive. No, you're punishing me. I'm giving you the exact relationship you asked for. I asked you to stop questioning me about old relationships. I didn't ask you to shut me out of your life. You asked for a rule that only benefits you. That isn't true. Then tell me how it benefits us. He stared at me. I waited. The refrigerator hummed behind us. Finally, he looked away. This is ridiculous. What did you do yesterday? He demanded. Work things. He gave a bitter laugh. You see that? That's exactly what I mean. And if I asked what happened with the woman in that photograph, my past is private, but my present belongs to you. I'm your fiancé. And I'm your fiancée. His mouth tightened. For once he had nothing left to throw at me. I thought that might finally force him to reflect. Instead, he called his mother. I didn't know that until she called me the following afternoon. I had always liked Margaret Brooks. She was warm, polished, and slightly overbearing in the way mothers sometimes become when their youngest child gets engaged. She had already chosen flowers for our reception without asking, and had opinions about everything from our guest list to the flavor of our wedding cake. Until that day, however, she had never spoken to me with open hostility. "Emily," she began, "Daniel says you've been distant and cold." I leaned back in my office chair. "He told you that? He's very upset." "I'm sorry, he's upset." "Then fix it." Her tone caught me off guard. "I'm not sure what he told you. He said you've stopped telling him where you go, who you speak to, or what's happening at work." "That's accurate. Why would you treat your future husband that way?" "I'm respecting the privacy standard he established." A pause followed. "What are you talking about?" "He told me his past is completely off limits. I'm not allowed to ask questions, so I decided parts of my life could be private too." "That is incredibly immature." I almost laughed. "Why?" "Because Daniel's past has nothing to do with your future. Then my work calls and conversations with my sister shouldn't affect his future either." "You're twisting my words." "No, I'm applying them equally." Margaret's voice sharpened. "A man is allowed to have painful memories he doesn't want examined." "I agree. He deserves compassion." "I agree with that too." "Then stop punishing him." I offered him compassion. I asked if he needed time. He said it wasn't about time. He said I was permanently forbidden from asking questions. That is his boundary. And privacy is mine. She went silent. I could almost hear her searching for an argument that didn't expose the double standard. Finally, she said, "Daniel deserves to know what is happening in the life of the woman he's marrying. And don't I deserve to know who I'm marrying?" "That is different." There's that word again. "You're acting like a child." "No, Margaret. I'm treating your son like an equal. He just doesn't enjoy equality when it limits him." She hung up. Daniel came home that night already furious. He didn't remove his coat. He didn't greet me. He walked straight into the living room and said, "You told my mother about our private problems." I looked up from the book in my lap. She called me. "You made me look unreasonable." I told her what happened. "You embarrassed me. You gave her your version first. That doesn't mean you had to attack me." "I didn't attack anyone." "She said you accused her of having a double standard." "She does." His face flushed. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" That question hurt more than I expected. I closed the book. "No, Daniel. I'm not enjoying any of this." "Then why won't you let it go?" "Because we're planning a marriage." So marriage isn't one person asking questions while the other hides behind locked doors. His expression cracked. The anger vanished, replaced by something raw. "Why can't you just trust me?" I stood slowly. "I did trust you." "Then trust me now." "I trusted you for 3 years because I believed we shared our lives honestly. Then one photograph appeared, and suddenly I wasn't allowed to ask who someone was. It's just one part of my past." "Then why did you shut the album like it was evidence?" His eyes filled with tears. "Why are you doing this to me?" The words stunned me, as if I had created the secret, as if I had forced him to hide. "I'm not doing this to you," I said. "I'm refusing to let you do it to me." He slept in the guest room that night. The next morning, I entered the kitchen while the shower ran upstairs. Daniel's phone rested on the counter. I wasn't looking for anything. I didn't touch it, but the screen lit up. One notification appeared. A message from a contact saved as, "Do not answer." No name, no photograph. Just those 3 words. The message preview was hidden. I stood there staring until the screen went dark. Who saved someone as "do not answer" instead of blocking them? Someone they feared. Someone they wanted to resist. Or someone they knew they would answer if the name appeared. I said nothing when Daniel came downstairs, but the notification stayed with me. That afternoon, his older sister Natalie arrived without warning. She walked into the apartment the moment I opened the door, her handbag still hanging from her shoulder. "We need to talk." "Do way." She turned toward me. "You're being ridiculous." I almost smiled. Apparently, the entire Brooks family had agreed on the same opening argument. "Natalie, this is between Daniel and me. He's my brother. And he's my fiancé." "Then start acting like it." I crossed my arms. "What does that mean?" "It means supporting him instead of turning his trauma into some kind of competition." My stomach tightened. "What trauma?" She froze. Only for a second. But I saw it. "He's been hurt before," she said carefully. "How?" "That's not my story to tell." "Of course it isn't." She rolled her eyes. "You're supposed to be a safe person for him." "Safe doesn't mean silent. He's protecting himself. From the woman he plans to marry. You don't understand what he went through." "No," I said. "Because I'm forbidden from asking." Natalie stamped her heel against the floor. "He has a right to privacy. And I have a right to decide whether I marry someone who hides important parts of himself." Her face changed. "You'd cancel the wedding over this." "I would cancel it over what this represents." Her anger faded. For the first time, she looked genuinely frightened. "You don't mean that." "I do." She left without another word. Daniel came home 2 hours later. His eyes were red. "Natalie said you're thinking about calling off the wedding." "I'm thinking about whether I can marry someone who believes honesty should only travel in one direction." He stood near the doorway, looking suddenly smaller. "I'm not hiding anything dangerous." "Then what are you hiding?" His shoulders dropped. "There are things in my past that are complicated." I remained silent. "Things I'm not proud of," he continued. "I didn't want them to change how you see me." For the first time in weeks, I felt the wall move. Not fall, just shift. "What things?" His face closed again. "I can't tell you." And there it was. The door slamming shut once more. I went upstairs and packed a small bag. When I returned, Daniel stared at it in horror. "Where are you going?" "To Olivia's." "For how long?" "A few days." He grabbed my wrist, not hard, but desperately. "Please don't leave." I looked down at his hand until he released me. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you too." "Then stay." Love isn't enough when trust only moves one way. His breathing became uneven. "Emily, please. You need to decide what matters more." He stared at me through tears. "Keeping your secrets," I said, "or keeping me." I picked up my bag and walked toward the door. Behind me, Daniel spoke so softly I almost didn't hear him. "You won't look at me the same." My hand paused on the doorknob. I wanted to turn around. I wanted to promise him that nothing could change what we had. But something already had. And deep down, I suspected the woman in that photograph was only the beginning. I stayed at Olivia's apartment for 4 days. She didn't ask me to explain everything the first night. She simply opened the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me into a hug. That nearly broke me. Because until then, I had been holding myself together with anger. Anger was useful. It kept my hands steady while I packed. It kept me from turning around when Daniel begged me to stay. But kindness stripped all of that away. I cried against my sister's shoulder until my chest hurt. Olivia sat beside me on the couch afterward, listening, as I told her about the photograph, Daniel's sudden boundary, his family's interference, and the contact saved as "do not answer." When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said either he's hiding something serious or he thinks controlling information gives him power. I stared at the untouched cup of tea in my hands. "Maybe both." She nodded. "Both are reasons not to marry him." I knew she was right. That didn't make it hurt less. During those 4 days, my phone barely stopped vibrating. Daniel called, then texted, then called again. "Emily, please come home. I can explain. You're making this bigger than it is. I miss you. I can't sleep. Please don't throw away 3 years." His messages shifted between apology and accusation so quickly that I started to feel dizzy reading them. One moment, I was the love of his life. The next, I was cruel for leaving. Margaret called 7 times. I ignored every call. Natalie sent a long message accusing me of abandoning Daniel during an emotional crisis. Two of his friends contacted me on social media. One wrote, "He's falling apart. Whatever happened, you need to stop punishing him." Another said, "Withdrawing affection to force someone to disclose trauma is emotional abuse." I read that sentence twice. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, because if I didn't laugh, I might have screamed. Daniel had demanded full access to my present while declaring his past untouchable. He had met every question with an ultimatum. Yet somehow, I was the abusive one for refusing to accept it. Olivia found me staring at the message. "Block them," she said. "I don't want to look guilty." "You're not in court." "It feels like I am." She took the phone from my hand and placed it face down. "Then stop defending yourself to people who already chose a verdict." On the third night, something happened that changed everything. A friend of mine named Marcus worked as a bartender downtown. We had known each other since college, and he wasn't the kind of person who enjoyed drama. That was why his message frightened me immediately. "Hey Emily, I'm not trying to interfere, but I saw Daniel here last night with a woman. I thought you should know." My stomach dropped. I sat upright on Olivia's couch. "What woman?" A few seconds passed. Tall. Dark hair. Expensive coat. Maybe late 30s. They seemed close. My fingers went cold. "Close how?" "Mostly arguing. He was upset." She held his hand for a while. He didn't pull away. I stared at the screen. The room seemed to narrow around me. Olivia noticed my face. "What happened?" I showed her the message. She read it, then looked at me. "Do you know who she is?" "No." But I had an idea. The photograph. The hidden number. The panic in Daniel's eyes when I asked about his past. I typed another question. "Did they kiss?" "No. Not that I saw." But it didn't look casual. I thanked Marcus. Then I sat in silence. There were innocent explanations. She could have been a relative, a former coworker, an old friend. But innocent explanations did not usually begin with secret contact names and forbidden questions. Olivia sat beside me. "Call him." "No." "Why not?" "Because he'll lie if he isn't ready to tell the truth. And if you wait, he'll either decide honesty matters or he won't." Olivia studied me. "And if he chooses secrecy, then I saved myself from marrying it." The words sounded strong. Inside, I felt hollow. On the fourth afternoon, someone knocked on Olivia's door. 3 slow knocks. I knew it was Daniel before she opened it. He stood in the hallway wearing the same dark sweater he had worn the night I left. His face looked pale. There were shadows beneath his eyes. For one painful second, I saw the man I had loved. The man who brought soup when I was sick. The man who danced with me in the kitchen when no music was playing. Then I remembered the woman at the bar. "Can we talk?" he asked. Olivia looked at me. I nodded. She stepped into her bedroom, but left the door partially open. Daniel entered slowly. He didn't sit until I did. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he whispered, "Please come home. I need the truth first." "I'll tell you. All of it." His jaw tightened. "Yes." I leaned back. "Who is she?" His face drained of color. "Who?" "The woman you met at the bar." He stared at me. "How did you know?" "That isn't important." "It is to me." "No, Daniel. What matters is that you met another woman while we were separated, because you refused to tell me who she was." He rubbed both hands over his face. "It wasn't what you think." "Then tell me what it was." His breathing became shallow. "There's someone from my past." I waited. "Someone I was involved with for a long time." "The woman in the photograph?" He nodded. "What's her name?" "Vanessa." "How long were you together?" He looked at the floor. It wasn't exactly a relationship. A cold feeling moved through me. "What does that mean?" "She was married." The words landed quietly, almost gently. That made them worse. I stared at him. "She was married?" "Yes." "And you were having an affair with her?" His lips parted, but no sound came out. "How long?" "Emily." "How long?" 4 years. I felt something inside me go completely still. 4 years. Not one reckless night. Not a brief mistake. 4 years of hotel rooms. 4 years of hidden messages. 4 years of lying to another woman's husband. You were someone's affair partner for 4 years. I was younger. You were 22 when it started. You were 26 when it ended. I know. You knew she was married. Yes. From the beginning, his silence answered me. I stood and walked toward the window because I could no longer breathe while looking at him. Outside traffic moved along the street. People carried groceries. A woman pushed a stroller. The world continued as if mine hadn't just split open. Is Vanessa saved as "do not answer"? Daniel froze. I turned back. Is she? Yes. Why not block her? I did before. But you unblocked her. She contacted me from another number. And instead of blocking that number, you saved it. I saved it as a warning. A warning to yourself. Yes. Because you wanted to answer. No. Then why did you? His face crumpled. She said she was getting divorced. There it was. The sentence I had been afraid of, without knowing it. She wanted to meet in person, he continued. She said she needed closure, and you went. I wanted to tell her it was over. It ended 3 years ago. I know. So why did she need you to tell her again? She said she made a mistake. What mistake? Choosing her husband over me. I laughed once. A sharp, broken sound. And you thought the middle of our engagement crisis was the perfect time to meet your married ex-lover. She isn't married anymore. She was, when you were sleeping with her. She's separated. That changes nothing. I told her I was engaged. After you held her hand, she grabbed mine. And you let her. She was crying. So were you. His eyes lifted. I saw the answer before he spoke. Yes. I moved closer. Have you talked to her since you and I got together? He looked away. My heart began pounding. Daniel. It was only a few times. The room tilted. A few times over 3 years. Just message. How many? I don't know. Monthly. No. Every few months. Sometimes. Did you meet her before the bar? No. Did you call her? A few times. Did you tell me? No. Did you delete the messages? His silence was devastating. I closed my eyes. For 3 years, I had believed we told each other everything. Meanwhile, he had kept a private doorway open to a woman he once helped betray her husband. You didn't end the affair, I said softly. Yes, I did. You ended the physical part. That's not fair. You kept her in your life. I never cheated on you. You maintained a secret emotional connection with someone you spent 4 years sleeping with. It wasn't emotional. Then why were you both crying in a bar? He stood suddenly. Because it was complicated. That word again. It was a huge part of my life. And I wasn't allowed to know. I was ashamed. No. You were afraid I would make an informed decision. That's not true. You thought if you told me before the wedding, I might leave. His eyes filled with tears. And you were right. He stepped toward me. Emily, please. I love you. I looked at the ring on my finger. For months, it had represented our future. Now it felt like evidence of a promise made without full consent. I removed it slowly. Daniel watched his face collapsing. What are you doing? I held it out. I want you to take this. No. Take it. You don't mean that. I do. He shook his head violently. We can fix this. You lied to me for 3 years. I didn't lie. You created rules to prevent me from discovering the truth. I was going to tell you eventually. When? He said nothing. After the wedding. No. After we bought a house? Emily. After we had children. I don't know. That's the problem. He began crying. Not quietly. His whole body folded inward. I'll block hair. That isn't the point. I'll change my number. That isn't the point. I'll go to therapy. That might help you. It won't restore what you chose to destroy. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands. Look. He opened the contact, deleted it, then held the screen toward me. She's gone. I stared at the empty search result. It's too late. His face twisted. How can you throw us away over something that happened before you? It didn't stay before me. I never slept with her while we were together. You spoke to her in secret for all 3 years. It meant nothing. Then why hide it? He couldn't answer. I placed the ring on the coffee table. This is over. He sank onto the couch. You're making a mistake. No. I looked at him, and for the first time since the photograph, I felt completely certain. The mistake would be marrying you. The next morning, I returned to our apartment while Daniel was at work. Olivia came with me. I packed only what belonged to me. Clothes, books, my laptop, the framed photograph of my grandmother, kitchen items I had purchased before Daniel moved in. I photographed everything before placing it in boxes. Olivia raised an eyebrow. You think he'll accuse you of stealing? I don't know what he'll do anymore. I left his belongings untouched. His clothes remained in the closet. His family photograph stayed on the shelves. The wedding planning binder remained on the dining table. I placed my apartment key beside it. The ring was already gone. He had taken it from Olivia's coffee table after I left the room the night before. Part of me had expected him to refuse it. Another part knew he never would. The voicemails began that evening. Daniel's first message was grief. The second was rage. The third was bargaining. Margaret called me a monster. Natalie said I had destroyed her brother over one mistake. His father Robert left a message that disappointed me more than the others. Real women don't run from complicated situations, he said. Marriage means forgiveness. I listened once, then deleted it. Forgiveness did not mean marriage. Compassion did not require self-destruction. And 4 years of adultery, followed by 3 years of secret contact, was not one mistake. It was a pattern. The last voicemail came from Margaret. You'll regret this, she said. No man will tolerate expectations this impossible. You're going to end up alone. I stood in Olivia's kitchen, listening to those words. My expectation had been honesty. Mutual honesty. If that was impossible, then loneliness no longer frightened me. What frightened me was waking up 10 years later, beside a man whose life had always contained a locked room. Daniel had finally opened the door, and what waited behind it was worse than anything I had imagined. 6 months have passed since I left Daniel. For a while, I thought ending the engagement would be the hardest part. I was wrong. Leaving was one clean decision. Everything that followed was 1,000 smaller battles. The first involved the apartment. Both our names were on the lease, which meant neither of us could simply walk away without consequences. Daniel initially insisted that I continue paying half the rent until the lease expired, even though he had chosen to stay there. Then he claimed I had taken things that belonged to him. A coffee machine, 2 lamps, a set of expensive kitchen knives. Fortunately, Olivia had convinced me to photograph every item before I packed it. I had receipts for most of the disputed purchases and time-stamped photographs showing exactly what I removed. Daniel hired a lawyer. That frightened me more than I wanted to admit. For 3 days, I barely slept. I imagined courtrooms, legal fees, and months of being dragged through a fight with the man I had once planned to marry. Then his lawyer reviewed my documentation. The threats stopped almost immediately. The apartment was more complicated. I could have fought to remain on the lease until Daniel found another tenant. I could have demanded that he leave instead, but by then I no longer wanted to win. I wanted freedom. I paid my share of the early termination fee, accepted the damage to my credit, and signed the release papers. Olivia called it unfair. She was right. But sometimes a clean escape costs money. And sometimes paying that price saves you from something far more expensive later. The next 2 months brought a different kind of punishment. Daniel's friends began posting vague messages online. Some were about emotionally unavailable women. Others were about partners who weaponize boundaries. Margaret told extended family that I had abandoned her son weeks before the wedding because I could not handle a sensitive man with a complicated history. According to her version, Daniel had bravely tried to be vulnerable. I had responded by humiliating him. For a while, people believed it. Mutual friends stopped inviting me to gatherings. A bridesmaid quietly removed me from a group chat. Someone I had known for 5 years told Olivia that I had always seemed a little controlling. I wanted to defend myself. More than once, I opened my phone and began writing everything. The affair, the hidden contact, the secret meetings, the years of lies. But each time I deleted the post. I refused to turn my broken engagement into public entertainment. I never named Daniel. I never exposed Vanessa. I only told the truth when someone asked me directly. Eventually, people did. The stories Daniel's family told contained too many gaps. Why had one photograph triggered the breakup? Why had Daniel secretly met another woman? Why had he kept contacting her during our entire relationship? One by one, mutual friends came to me. I told them everything calmly. The shift was not dramatic. There was no public apology campaign. No one gathered outside my home to announce I had been right. Real life rarely offers moments that satisfying. But invitations returned. Messages softened. Several people apologized privately. One of Daniel's closest friends wrote, "I only heard his version. I didn't know he stayed in contact with her for 3 years. I'm sorry." Another admitted she would have left too. I appreciated the apologies, but they taught me something uncomfortable. People are often more interested in choosing a side quickly than understanding what actually happened. The wedding deposits became another battle. The venue deposit was non-refundable. $3,000 gone. The photographer kept $1,500. Daniel's parents had paid most of those costs, and Margaret sent me an itemized demand insisting I reimburse them. She claimed I had canceled the wedding without reasonable cause. I met with an attorney. He read the letter twice, placed it on his desk, and said, "You weren't married. Unless you signed a separate repayment agreement, you owe them nothing." I hadn't, so I declined, politely. Margaret responded with a 4-page letter, accusing me of destroying Daniel's life and placing his family under financial strain. I kept it in a folder with the voicemails and screenshots, not because her opinion mattered, because documentation had already saved me once. Then 4 months after the breakup, Vanessa's husband contacted me. His name was Michael. When I saw his message, I nearly deleted it. He explained that he was finalizing his divorce and had discovered old conversations between Vanessa and Daniel. In some of the messages, Vanessa mentioned that Daniel had become engaged. Michael wanted to confirm the timeline. He was worried that I might have been involved somehow, or that Daniel had misrepresented who I was. We spoke on the phone for almost an hour. It was one of the strangest conversations of my life. Michael had been married to Vanessa for 12 years. For 4 of those years, she had carried on an affair with Daniel. Michael had suspected something, but never found enough proof. During the divorce, he hired a private investigator. The investigator uncovered hotel records, archived messages, and financial statements. Vanessa had used a joint credit card to buy Daniel gifts, watches, concert tickets, vacant hotel rooms, charges Michael had once believed were business expenses or purchases for relatives. His lawyer used the evidence during the divorce negotiations. Vanessa had been asking for generous financial support. The affair records changed everything. As Michael spoke, I felt my own pain shrink into perspective. Daniel had lied to me for 3 years. Michael had spent more than a decade questioning his own instincts, while his wife constructed another life behind his back. I asked the question I had been avoiding. Are Daniel and Vanessa together now? Michael gave a bitter laugh. They were. Apparently, Daniel moved in with her less than a month after I ended our engagement. That revelation should have devastated me. Instead, it clarified everything. Daniel had told me Vanessa meant nothing. He had deleted her number while crying and promised she was gone. Weeks later, he was living with her. Michael said Vanessa had seemed thrilled at first. She finally had Daniel without a husband, hidden meetings, or secret hotel rooms. For years, she had believed their love only failed because circumstances kept them apart. Once they were both free, they could finally have the relationship they deserved. It lasted 2 months. Then Vanessa began working late. Daniel found messages between her and a man from her office. Nothing physical had happened yet, according to Vanessa. She called it harmless flirting. Daniel called it betrayal. The irony was almost painful. He had spent years participating in her marriage's destruction, then acted shocked when she brought the same secrecy into their relationship. A woman willing to cheat with you does not become honest simply because she is finally with you. Daniel apparently accused Vanessa of using him. Vanessa accused him of being paranoid and controlling. Their arguments became vicious. When the relationship ended, the apartment was in Vanessa's name. She gave him 1 week to leave. The last I heard, Daniel had moved back in with his parents. Several of the friends who defended him had distanced themselves after months of drama. Natalie still blamed me. Margaret still believed I had pushed her son toward Vanessa by refusing to forgive him. Maybe that story helped them sleep. I no longer cared. Do I feel sorry for Daniel? Sometimes. He is not a monster. He is a man who made selfish choices, avoided shame, and mistook secrecy for protection. Part of me still remembers the person who held my hand during my grandmother's funeral and stayed awake all night when I was sick. Those memories were real. So were the lies. Both truths can exist at once. As for me, I am doing better. Not perfectly. Trust does not return just because the person who broke it disappears. I second-guess people now. I notice hidden screens and delayed answers. Sometimes an innocent pause makes my stomach tighten. But I am learning not to confuse caution with weakness. Olivia recently asked whether I regretted mirroring Daniel's behavior, whether refusing to share my present had been petty. I thought about it for a long time. No, I said, because it showed me what he actually wanted. If I had accepted his rule quietly, we might have married. I might have discovered Vanessa after children, a mortgage, or 10 years of building a life on incomplete truth. Daniel gave me an exit sign before the wedding. All I did was stop pretending I couldn't read it. Some boundaries are healthy. People do not owe their partners every thought, every painful memory, or every detail of their past. But a boundary cannot mean one person receives complete access while the other remains hidden. That is not intimacy. That is control. A partnership cannot survive when honesty only travels in one direction. I once feared ending up alone. Now I understand that loneliness beside the wrong person is far worse than solitude after leaving them. Daniel thought his secret would change how I saw him. He was right. But it was not his past alone that ended us. It was the way he protected the lie, maintained the connection, and demanded trust he had never earned. I did not leave because he was imperfect. I left because he expected me to build a future with a version of him that had never truly existed. And for the first time in 6 months, I no longer feel like the woman whose wedding was destroyed. I feel like the woman who escaped before it began.